I have to agree completely with your assessment that the rabid dog won't be able to restrain itself. And when I say the rabid dog, I'm not just referring to the Israeli political and military elite. I'm talking, of course, to their partners in crime in Washington. They're both rabid dogs. It's one and the same rabid dog, as a matter of fact. And this whole idea, in my opinion, that there's some kind of separation. The Americans are always trying to create separation between themselves and their rabid dog in West Asia. And they do this, I think, because they're speaking to two different constituencies. The American government has a different voter base than the Israeli government. The Jewish Israeli population, and polls show this, are perfectly happy to see the government, their security forces torture Palestinians, obliterate Palestinians, starve Palestinians. The vast majority of Israeli Jews, according to the polls, support these actions towards the Palestinian people. But you have a I wouldn't say radically different, but a materially different voting base in the United States. And so there has to be rhetorically, in my opinion, for any government to have any prospect of winning sufficient votes to there has to be an effort to create some separation rhetorically between the actions of the United States and the actions of Israel. But behind the scenes, in my opinion, and it sounds like you agree, they're on the same page completely, and they act in concert, and the Israelis wouldn't do anything, certainly that would potentially have massive consequences for the United States without U.S. approval and assistance. And we're seeing this in the genocide in Gaza. Who's providing the bombs? Who's providing the artillery shells? There was a report by, you talked about the coordination between the Israeli and the American military. There was a report in Declassified UK a few days ago. They found records showing that there have been numerous flights carrying the kinds of planes that carry U.S. special forces to combat from the British military base in Cyprus, Akrotiri, to the Zionist colony. I think the number was 12 or 15, something like that. And that's what they learned about. Who knows how many there have actually been. So special forces.
If you remember the massacre in Nusayrat, when they supposedly freed those quote-unquote hostages, these prisoners of war, the actual report that we have from the Axis of Resistance on what happened that day is that the American pier was used, where American and Israeli special forces invaded the Nusayrat neighborhood from the pier using aid trucks camouflaged, and that actually the whole Israeli unit was liquidated by the resistance. And that the second American Special Forces team had to come in to provide the support for the American Special Forces, the first team that was stuck after the Israeli Special Forces were liquidated. And that basically it was the American Special Forces that finished the operation and went on that rampage, killing everybody in the streets. This is a fact. We already know that the American Special Forces were used in many places in the tunnels, but actually that there was also with them many mercenaries, that these mercenaries were put in the front line in the tunnels, and behind them American Special Forces. This is not, this is not fiction. This is a fact. The Americans have been involved on the ground, in the air, in the sea, in every part of this genocide that we saw happening in Palestine, in Gaza, and all the crimes that are being committed around the whole region in Western Asia. And it is now coming to an end. There will be a price to pay. And we will be hearing for the first time real numbers of Americans dead in this conflict.
And the other thing to bear in mind is that there are thousands of U.S. citizens serving with Israeli uniforms in the Israeli military. There was an article about this today in The Guardian, of all places. They were talking about a U.S.-Israeli war criminal whose name is Bram Setenbrino, posting videos of the Israeli forces blowing up mosques and houses in Gaza, which are war crimes, and emptying entire machine gun bullet chambers into what is clearly civilian infrastructure. And at the end of the day, what difference does it make what uniform he happens to be wearing? He's an American. And there's thousands of them participating in the genocide, and the American government is well aware of this and even supports it. So it's all one rabid dog at the end of the day. And I think that
And
that's
they're back in the streets of the United States. That guy was just filmed harassing, intimidating, threatening American citizens in the streets of the US just last week.